Hey, everybody, it is Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the Monday edition of Today in Sports Betting. As always, I am joined by my partner in crime, the one, the only Scott Reichel. Scott, you're killing us. They're killing the old men in the contest. You've buried Dave and I deep. It's not impossible to dig out of because I chased you all year in our college football contest and ended up closing when it mattered, but. For right now, you're having a pretty nice tourney.
Well, as for college football, I have no idea what you're talking about because all, handicappers have a short-term memory. So you might have to remind me of that because I don't remember what happened there. But something about you winning an imaginary trophy. But either way, overall, I can't complain so far. I'm not going to get too confident as of what you just said. It's pretty tough to win a race when you're constantly looking at the rearview mirror. So, I'm trying to just keep my head focused. I know I lost my play that yesterday with Texas Tech. Pretty tough there. I had a couple shots, so I can't complain too much about it. A couple of maybe a note call or two that didn't go in my favor, which we can talk about. McClung missing the front end of that 1-1 was pretty brutal, but happens. Other than that, though, pretty good day overall. I went 11-5 yesterday, so yeah, can't complain. How'd your day go?
Yeah. I was sitting at 9-5 going into the last game, and I missed both sides of the Oklahoma State and the total, so I ended up 9-7. I could have tied you there at 11-5, but that did not happen.
Well, that's important because if you went 11-5, then I would have been 9-7. So you wouldn't have tied me; you would have just beaten me.
Good point. Yeah, good point because would have had a couple different sides there.
The one
One of
bad
the
beat,
ones.
sorry, the one bad beat I really had was the Wisconsin under. And it's really just fitting because since I go there and I've constantly talked bad about them, whatever, it's only fitting that they would screw me by fouling down 11 with 16 seconds left. Really just
Beautiful.
great job coaching right there.
We
But
talked about that like every show that we previewed the tournament. We talked about those totals and how there's more scramble points because of the desperation and the ridiculousness
that's not
is
even desperation.
ramped
That's
up.
just pure stupidity. But I can't complain too much because I did have the Syracuse under and Boeheim missed the second end there.
Yeah,
So I can't complain too
I
much.
lived by the 82% free throw shooter and I died by the 82% free throw shooter.
I think he
It
was
helped
80.
me. It helped me when they missed him at the Oklahoma State game, and it hurt me when Boeheim missed the second one to keep that total under 147.5.
Pretty sure he's 88% to make it worse. But
Was he
either way,
88?
so
I
I think
think.
he's
Oh, that's
88.
right. He was 88. Yeah, that's right.
Point is, it balanced itself out. So I guess I can't complain too much. I got lucky on one end, and I got unlucky on the other, so it balanced out.
It happens. It happens, man. So there's been a pretty good amount of upsets here in this tournament so far. Scott, what's the biggest surprise? Is it going to be Oral Roberts in the Sweet 16? Can there be a bigger surprise than that, or is it having a couple of big seeds get bounced out? Which is more stunning to you?
Well, it's got to be Oral Roberts. I mean, you don't have many 15 seeds that actually make it past the first round, let alone into the Sweet 16. Last one was Gulf Coast, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Correct.
of course, I remember that run. This run, they don't have the same highlight dunks, but the similarities there are that these teams can score a lot of points, and Oral Roberts can score a lot of points. But I personally got an Oral Roberts Final Four ticket, 100-1, that I took after they won their first game. I had a book that just didn't update the odds properly, so I got in. It was mostly available at around, I think, 60-1, and
Right.
one book still at 100-1, so I grabbed it. I think they're going to get killed by Arkansas, but we can talk about that in a couple of days. But I'm having a fun time watching this team play no defense and score 80+ points a game. It's a fun time, but I thought they would beat Florida today. I took them in the contest plus the points. I thought they would cover against Ohio State. I didn't think Ohio State was going to blow the game, but I think that has to be the answer. You?
Yeah, it's because every year you have upsets of the one and the two, but I think the 15 moving forward is probably the most stunning thing. And is there anything that you attribute the upsets to? How about this one? Every seed has won at least one game except the 16.
Uh,
Did you like
wait,
that?
that's definitely a fun stat. I mean, I'll tell you that much. That's a very fun stat. That kind of just showcases how crazy it is in one sentence.
It's
I
nuts.
I didn't
And
realize that,
is
but
there anything you can attribute to? I mean, is it just do you just write it off to 2021? I mean, the 20 and the 20/21 season, and go, yeah, that's about fucking par for the course. Or is there a deeper reason? Is it like because the transfer portal's now opened up and you don't have to wait a year, which was truly draconian anyway. That was ridiculous. But now that guys are like, and the grad transfer situation as well, where guys are able to do their 4 years, get their degree, and go play wherever the hell they want to. Is it or is it just shit happens? Is it just one of those years?
I think it's definitely the last thing that you mentioned there. I just think that March Madness, there's a reason why it's madness, and it's because of the fact that even in normal situations, you have upsets all the time. There's a reason why there has been no perfect bracket ever since it ended up expanding to the current field that it has. The amount of teams. You've never had a perfect bracket, and at some point you will, because at some point there's going to be 1 year where upsets are few and far between. But I'm not surprised that you've seen a lot of unpredictability in the tournament in the past, and especially this year. This year is kind of the unpredictability on steroids because you have a lot of unique circumstances. Teams missed games, missed potential practice time. Some teams had COVID issues as well. Not as many, but you had some. A decent amount of teams, even if they're healthy now, had to miss games earlier in the year because of COVID, which could have affected their seeding. So you can look at a team and say, this team, I don't want to say Loyola because they actually played pretty much every game, but you look at some of these teams and you say, well, their record's only this and this. And you go, well, that's true, but they also had 5 games canceled. So the record would have been a lot better had they actually played those games. So I do think that if it impacted anything, it potentially impacted the misseeding of a couple of teams that should probably have been seeded higher than they are.
Right. Well, sure. And you had Colgate that played 12 games.
Yeah.
So, you don't know what you do with, because Colgate a top 10 team? Probably not.
But the point is you just go through the line and you just go to yourself, you just say to yourself, well, Colgate played about 13 games or whatever. Meanwhile, Abilene Christian played about 26.
Right.
And you're going through how many teams played what. I do think the teams that played more games have an advantage because they have more just comfortability with each other.
Not sure that's a word.
Comfortability?
Comfortability.
No? More comfort with each other?
If we were playing Scrabble, I would challenge you.
Well, you can keep talking, but I'm going to search it up.
Okay, because for starters, that's way too many letters. So,
it's a word.
Comfortability is a word?
Yes. You lost your challenge, and that means you lost the timeout in Scrabble.
No, that's the way that works.
You have no challenges remaining.
No one uses comfort. No, okay.
I just used it. It's a word.
That's fucking made up. All right.
I don't know what you want me to tell you, man. That's like 40 points with the double letter. So.
Do you think the transfer portal is going to lead, or has it led to greater parity? Some of these teams that normally wouldn't be competitive maybe pick up a guy or two. And on the other side, are the mid-majors losing guys that they might have kept for 4 years that are getting out of there after their sophomore or junior year and going and helping one of the big boys?
I think it's definitely possible. I mean, you have seen a lot of players from grad transfers mostly because in previous years, of course, you had to wait a year and nobody really wants to wait a year. But that's why you have some teams like Gonzaga and some usual suspects who usually get the grad transfers from other schools. And that's why Gonzaga has been really, really good every single year. But looking at some of these other schools, a lot of it also depends on what the reason is that people are transferring. You have some people who play in some random colleges, and whether it's the Southwind or whether it's the NEC or any of these other ones, and they actually want more national recognition, so they will go to the big boys. On the other hand, you have some who actually go to Kentucky, some who go to, I don't know, I'm thinking of some other ones, Oklahoma, all these other schools, and they realize if I'm going to be sitting on the bench the entire time, why am I here? And it turns out they can just go to other schools and get minutes, and they're still top 100 high school recruits. I mean, you have a couple of Kentucky players this past year who I believe were top 100, and they left because they were playing 2 minutes a game.
Well, you and I talked about that, about whether you'd rather go, sit on the bench for 2 years at Kentucky or go start for Ball State for 4 years.
Yeah. And that's just how I view it. But I think that's the main reason why it kind of balances out. It depends on the reason why people transfer. And I think eventually it depends if the NCAA wants to keep the big boys doing what they do, then you should allow them to transfer with no waiver, because you'll get all of the top recruits and all the people transferring going to the big schools without having any punishments involved. But if you want to keep it a little bit more even, then I think you have to keep, or you bring back the 1 year penalty of not being allowed to actually do. I think it's the dumbest rule in sports, but if they choose to keep it, then that's how you kind of prevent people from transferring.
Also, not sure it's legal. Not, and I would bet, no matter what the NCAA said, I would bet that is ultimately was probably behind the move.
I just think it's stupid. You're punishing the 19-year-old for not enjoying his situation and wanting to make his career better for himself. I don't know why that's a thing, but the NCAA does a lot of stuff that I think is relatively, I don't say criminal, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. Shady.
Yeah.
The word I'll use there. So
shady AF, as the kids say.
Yeah. So for me, I think that's the main thing. I like the chaos of having people transfer wherever they want. I think it's more fun that way. So I kind of want it to stay. But, the NCAA does some things that we might not all either agree with because we don't know what's behind the scenes. But that's all I really have to say about that.
Oh, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of underachieving conferences,
Big Ten.
Let's talk about the Big Ten, man. Let's look at this LSU game, shall we? A Michigan team that a month ago I practically had to wear a bib. I was slobbering over this team so much.
I told you about them.
You what?
Earlier, I got you onto them earlier in the year when they played Minnesota like 3 months ago.
Had I not been aware Michigan was a thing?
You took Minnesota in that game, so yeah.
Well, Michigan wasn't a thing for a while, but then they became a thing. And
to you, they were a thing for me for a while. But
you lost a lot of money then because they sucked about the first part of the Big Ten season.
Michigan this past year,
they were not. They didn't cover.
I kind of just meant by how good they actually were.
Oh.
They just kept winning games, but they're definitely not as good as they were. Of course, Liver being out is a big deal.
Yeah.
How much do you buy into the 1 seed and how it performed against the 16 seed? Do you think it means anything?
Depends on who the 16 seed is. I mean, there's
Texas Southern. They had a game in their back pocket and a neutral.
You mean the fact they didn't cover?
I just meant the fact that that game was around 10 with about 6-7 minutes to go.
Yeah, it seemed like they were unable to put them away.
I know they were never in danger of losing the game.
No,
it was just
I mean, put them away for the real death blow where we could have covered the number.
Yeah, I mean, it was never really close. I know that they were at 20, I think 1 or 2 points. Then I know Texas Southern cut it to I think like 13. Yeah. That was mostly where it was at for the rest of the game. They won by 16. Yeah. But Michigan just seemed, especially defensively. Now I know some of it might have just been going through the motions. The game's over. We can move on with our lives. Texas Southern got a lot of open looks. And that's a Texas Southern team that should have been the one that was tired. Yeah. So, I didn't love it, but I do think a good coach can see that and correct it and get a lot of things fixed. The reason why I'm asking is after that performance and seeing what LSU did to St. Bonaventure. Now, I'm not going to overreact to it because, of course, LSU is much better athletes than St. Bonaventure. Do you think that this spread being around 5 is accurate? Because I see some books that have 5, some that have 5.5, and some that have 4.5. So this line's kind of all over the place on the same 1-point spectrum. I don't know what the spread should be because Michigan is clearly compromised. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they haven't played enough games without Livers to really kind of establish a baseline of what the new Michigan looks like. I think the spread should be closer to 3.5. Well, I know I'm taking LSU, so based on the number, I'd have to take LSU as well. I'm taking my 5.5, and running to the window. Just asking though, what do you think this line should be? I think 3.5 sounds. 3.5 is. I was thinking 3.5, 4 when I got this at 5.5. I was damn happy about it. I feel the same way. So I haven't fully locked in all my answers, if you know what I mean. Yeah, yeah. But as of right now, based on the number, it's either LSU or pass for me. Yeah, I mean, this LSU team, I'm not sure the Michigan defense can shut them down. Even Michigan at full strength, I know, of course, is a better overall team. LSU clearly has the better athletes, correct? Smart and Thomas in the backcourt.
1 to 10, probably. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that Michigan's shorthanded. I know that you can organize a scheme, and Will Wade as a coach, I think, is okay. I think Juwan Howard's the better overall coach. But at
Agreed.
some point, you look at your actual roster, and you got Wagner on pick and rolls trying to guard Smart and Thomas. You're going to have some problems. And I think that that's a serious issue for Michigan, whose defense really didn't look as sharp as you wanted it to be against a 16 seed.
Yeah. And again, a 16 seed that had played the day before, or 2 days before. So,
yeah. So I got to go with LSU. I think this one should continue to come down. I really don't know, besides Michigan homers, who's going to be betting Michigan, especially after the potential overreaction in the first round. I just don't really see where Michigan money is going to come from, because LSU, and especially in a crazy tournament like this where people are just daring to bet against the 1 seeds because A, it's fun, B, really no teams look dominant besides Gonzaga. People know about the Michigan injuries, and LSU looks like a team that is kind of clicking at the right time. I know it lost in the title game to Alabama in a game it probably should have won.
yeah.
It had that tip in at the end and it missed. LSU, the SEC's been good in the tournament. Big Ten is not. I think they're going to see more fading Big Ten money.
And before we, discount problems, they're a decent defensive team. They've shut down some good offenses, namely like St. Louis.
Mhm.
So they're used to playing big time talent. So for Alabama to put 76 on them, that's a decent effort against a pretty solid defensive St. Bonaventure team. I'm with you. I think there could be some Michigan money that comes in late. I think if that number gets down,
I think 4 is the lowest it's going to go.
Yeah, I think if you can find any 3.5, I think the sharps will come in at that point.
Yeah.
But I think 5.5 is a bargain with this one.
So let me ask you, picking the upset, or you just think LSU covers?
I haven't decided yet. It's certainly worth a sprinkle. And
we can talk about it because it's not for the sake of the contest. I'm just curious if you think they're going to win the game.
I think they have a good shot. I think
I agree. I think Michigan will win, but I
don't know what the price on the money line is. I would assume somewhere in the neighborhood of 250.
Let me check. It's like plus 176 on FanDuel.
Oh, that's brutal. Is it at 4.5?
I think it's actually at 5. Well, let me shop around real quick. It's plus 170 on DraftKings. There's really not much value on the money line, to be honest.
No, that's a little thin for me, buddy. I think I'm just going to stick with the side there.
I feel like all of these books have like purposefully accepted the spreads, but they're trying to absolutely murder you on the money line.
Yeah, and people are trying to go, "Who the upsets are coming in?"
I see plus 180 on BetMGM. That's pretty much the best.
No interest for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Michigan will win. I've seen LSU throughout the season in the SEC. This team's really, really good at losing close games.
Yeah, they
are. They really struggle to win games that are decided by one possession. I saw them choke against Texas Tech. I saw them lose against Alabama. They beat Arkansas in the end, which was a good win for them in the SEC tournament. But this team really struggles to close games out. And Michigan, especially in the last 2 minutes, you want the more fundamentally sound team. And I think Michigan's more fundamentally sound, but I think they'll win the game by one possession. So I'll take LSU plus the points.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Want to take a look at the other Big Ten team here?
The other Big Ten late game, because I was a little bit too early.
Yeah, let's talk about the unexpected Big Ten team that's still around. So, yeah, Ohio State and Illinois are gone. Maryland's still there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's 2021, 2020, or 2020 and 2021. Absolutely. Maryland plus 6 over Bama, Scott. You grabbing some Terps magic?
Well, I see mostly 5.5. So if you have already started to see some 6s pop up, this line has already flown a lot. Went from around minus 4.5 to mostly 5.5. And as you just said, there is a 6 available. So if you do want Maryland, you should probably wait, because I think there will be more Bama money. I like Bama. Looking through this matchup here, I kind of wanted to ask you before I actually break down my thoughts on the matchup in particular, how much stock do you put into fading conferences? Or backing conferences? You put none?
Not none,
Like
but
Pac-12 6-0, Big Ten being terrible. That's kind of the trends that everyone's talking about. I'm curious if you put any stock into that.
yeah, I'll give it a thought, but it's not going to be at the forefront of my capping. That's I mean, I watched both of those conferences play all year long, and the Big Ten was the superior conference. I don't care what the record in the tournament says.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. But looking at this actual matchup, I got to go with Bama. At the end of the day, it's kind of the same reason that I liked LSU against Michigan. I know that this is involving a favorite instead of an underdog. I'm just looking at the athletes and just the actual personnel. Bama just has much better players. I
I
mean, you're
know.
looking at Maryland, and you could say that they have an experienced backcourt, pretty good at free throw shooting. This Bama team, who plays really well offensively, sneakily good defensively, this team can really buckle down at points defensively. And I know Maryland beat UConn. UConn couldn't hit water if it fell out of a boat in that game. They couldn't hit a shot.
Yeah.
So I know that Maryland's defense was good. I know that it plays a slow style of offense. I think Alabama's going to try to push the pace. And I think in the half court, they can still function. So for me, I'll give Maryland props for beating UConn. I didn't think they were going to beat UConn, but I got to go with Bama here. I just think Bama's the better team.
Okay. I've hated this Maryland team all year long, and I loved Connecticut, and they were dreadful.
I think the only way Maryland wins is if Ayala scores 22 plus points. I think Ayala needs to have a big game for Maryland to win this.
Well, game. I mean, here's the deal, though. I mean, they play decent defense. They really do. Six of their last 8, or 8 of their last 10, rather, they've given up 66 or less.
I'm assuming you're talking about Maryland.
Yeah, they gave up 79 to Michigan, and they gave up 71 to Nebraska, of all things, in a game they didn't cover. They won 79-71.
No, they've been great defensively.
But everybody else, they've played really good defense against them. They give up 60 to Purdue. So they have 54 to UConn. Sure, they couldn't shoot well, but a lot of those shots were contested. I don't want to do it, Scott, but I'm going to take Maryland here. I like this Bama team. I really do. But I think Maryland could get the backdoor cover. I think they could be down 10, 12, 14, and all of a sudden you look up, it's 3 minutes left, and it's a 3-point game, and they get the cover.
Definitely possible. I also am kind of betting the number, because if you have looked at the line movement, this line should probably cross 6, maybe even reach 6.5 at some point.
Well, I've got a much bigger play on the total, so
that's fair.
All right, my friend. Well, there you go. We'll be back to talk a little NBA tomorrow, maybe a little CBI? CBI or CTI? I can never remember. CBI.
The CBI starts tomorrow. I wrote an article about that for winnersandwhiners.com on the Coastal Carolina Bryant matchup. But yeah, if you're looking for college basketball, that isn't the NCAA tournament that actually exists. You still have some NBA going on, and baseball starting up in about a week and a half.
Yeah. We're getting right there. So,
and that's actually gonna quick spoiler alert for the upcoming week. I believe we're gonna preview some divisions, right?
It's the rumor. That's the rumor, because there's nothing that people want to talk about more in the middle of the NCAA tournament than baseball.
Well, considering the fact that a lot of people forget that the worst part of the NCAA tournament is the 4 to 5 day off in between the round of 32 and the Sweet 16.
And that's the other thing. It's all of a sudden you go basketball. They play the finals, and holy shit, it's baseball season. Yeah. How did that happen?
I just think it's crazy how they're actually keeping the break in between when you're staying in the bubble. The whole point is that you come home to like a half parade to celebrate in front of your local campus, to do the drive through of, we did it. Yeah, we made it to the second weekend. And now you have a second weekend of everybody just sitting around in a bubble.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of weird, don't you think?
Yeah, but it's necessary. You knew it was going to happen. That's the way it works.
I'm saying, is it necessary? Could they have hypothetically played through?
Oh, you're talking about why have the gap?
If you're not going to go home and celebrate with the people, which is the whole point of going back, these kids are not even going to classes anyway. What's the point?
I don't know if you're familiar about how sports and television work.
Yeah.
But
the ratings tend to be better on the weekends.
It's a pretty big deal on the weekends. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. I don't think anybody wants to see the Sweet 16 fire up Wednesday morning.
I think people would find a way. But yeah, that's definitely true.
All right. Yeah, because CBS paid a lot of money for this tournament.
Mhm. So did
So
Capital One.
and they didn't make any last year. So I think if they could do it, I think they'd have every game on Saturday and Sunday.
By the way, one more question before we wrap up. It's kind of just a fun question.
Oh
How
boy.
many Capital One commercials do you need to see before you get tired of seeing the same ones over and over again?
Oh, 3 tops.
3 tops? Because I feel like I'm at 50 at this point.
Yeah.
And they also have the Coca-Cola one, the whatever the thing is. There's something with Pinocchio in there. There's some werewolves. I don't know what's going on. Halloween was a couple months ago. What are we doing here?
It's
Do you understand the commercials? I don't know what's going on.
yes, I understand. It's Pinocchio saying that Coke Zero is as good as Coke, and
Oh
then
no, I understand it, but the point is that you also have the werewolves in the store, and I'm just like, what are we doing with what's happening?
the werewolves. I don't think I've seen the werewolves in the store.
There's like a guy behind the counter, and he walks out, and he has like horse feet. He's like a half centaur. And he's talking to some female teen wolf, and I'm just like, what? What does that have to do with Coca-Cola? What are we
I've
doing?
not seen that. I don't know. I don't know how I've
I've
possibly
seen that
missed
at
it.
least like 20 times over the weekend.
Okay, well then
I just don't understand some commercials that are playing all the time. Can we just switch something up every now and then?
that does sound confusing. Well, I'll certainly keep my eye out for that.
It's not good, so you won't be excited by it. But
Hey Scott, what's in your wallet?
yeah, well, they actually haven't played any of those commercials. That's the one thing missing from this tournament. Jennifer Gardner,
Yeah,
the one thing
yeah,
missing from this entire tournament.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll be back tomorrow to talk a little more basketball, so that'll be good. And then yeah, get prepared, and because we're going to be doing baseball later in the week. Man, you talk about piling up the views.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Spring training.
I know. It's going to be. I love baseball. And I love betting on baseball. So there you go. All right. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Winers, appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course. And we hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. You guys have a great day. Enjoy the Monday round of 32. We may never see it again. So let's have some fun, make a little money, and we'll see you tomorrow on Today in Sports Betting. See ya.